Hi everyone, today's lesson is trigonometry, solving for legs using sine and cosine. So every time we try to solve for a missing bit of information, the first thing we're going to do is start by labeling our triangle, just as we did before. So straight across, we know we have the hypotenuse. We find our indicated angle, and this side will be opposite. So this one would be adjacent, but we don't actually need the adjacent because we're dealing with the hypotenuse and the opposite side because the question is there. So now that we know we're dealing with the opposite and hypotenuse, we know we're going to choose sine. So we write down our formula. Sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Our next step will be to fill in what we know. So we know we have 35. Sine 35 is equal to opposite, which we don't know. We'll just make it an x. And then the hypotenuse is 9. Now, if we just put this over 1, we have a proportion, and we can just solve our proportion. So we're going to end up multiplying 9 by sine 35. Which gives us x equal to 5 2/10. And we'll call them centimeters for today. And if we look back up, our hypotenuse is 9, so a side length of 5.2 for our triangle makes sense. So we followed all of the steps on the other side. We already had our triangle drawn. We then labeled it. We chose our ratio. We subbed in the values we knew. We solved, and we just double-checked to make sure that it made sense. So that's example 1 for you. We have 2 more examples we're going to go through. Example 2. So using the same process that we did last time, we're going to start by labeling our triangle. So we know where our hypotenuse is. We find our indicated angle. And we know that we're going to be looking for our opposite side. And our last side will be adjacent. But because we have a number with the hypotenuse and a question mark with the opposite, that means we're going to use those 2 signs. So then we're going to choose our ratio, and that's just our matching game at that point. So we know that OH is with the sine ratio. So we're going to write down our formula. It's equal to opposite over divided by the hypotenuse. And then we're going to sub in what we know. Is equal to the opposite, which we don't know, and the hypotenuse. All right, so again, let's turn that into a proportion. You know how to solve from there. So we'll end up having x is equal to 31 4/10 multiplied by the sine of 16 6/10, which will give us x equal to 8 9/10, and we'll make those centimeters. And just to double check, make sure our answer makes sense, we have a hypotenuse of 31.4, so 8.9 or 8 9/10 makes sense here. Example 3. For this example, we're going to start just as we did our other ones by labeling our triangle. First, we'll find the hypotenuse, which is always across from our right angle. Next, we find our indicated angle. We mark our opposite. And our last side is adjacent. Okay, so in this one, we're dealing with our hypotenuse and our adjacent side. So we will choose cosine to complete this one. So we write down our formula. Cos theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Next, we'll fill in what we know. We know our degrees, 43 8/10. And our adjacent side we don't know, but we do know our hypotenuse, which is 17 6/10. I'm going to go ahead and set that up as a proportion, and then I'm going to solve. So x will be equal to 17 6/10 multiplied by the cosine of 43 8/10 of a degree to give us a final answer of x equal to 12 7/10. And let's call them centimeters. So our final answer is that our adjacent side, or x in this case, is equal to 12 7/10 of a centimeter, or whatever your units would be.